What's up? We're live. Welcome to the Sword Art Online discussion and diving deep into this show. Yeah, that's what we're going to call it. My name is Carrie Lane. I'm joined by my special guest. This way. There we go.
Yeah.
Alan Lee, the voice of Moonphase.
Hey, guys.
Yay.
Woo! Yay.
It says it just went live. Maybe we'll start that again.
We'll start that again? Okay.
Okay, we'll say it again in case that didn't get the beginning there. But welcome to the Sword Art Online discussion show. My name is Carrie, joined by Alan Lee, Moonphase. Yay! It's like a mirror. It's like
yeah.
This.
I just realized that. Take 3? No.
Right. Yes.
Yay!
Nice.
Okay.
So
hi, guys.
Thank you everyone for joining us. If you're watching this live, and feel free to jump in the chat with your questions, and we're gonna get into it. Yay! Okay, so we got it all set up. Well, thank you so much for joining me, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what is it like being part of the SAO universe? And you also mentioned you're more than one voice on this show.
I am. Okay, so to answer number one, it's weird because I was watching it in Japanese, and then they, like, way back in 2012, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I was brought in to do some additional voices for the first season, way back in 2013 going to 2014, I think. I don't know.
Which feels like forever ago now.
Yeah, it is, but yeah. But it was surreal because I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I don't know. It's a weird, surreal feeling to like to recount. It's just one of those things where it's just like it felt like a dream all the way through. And to answer your second question, yes, technically Moonphase is the fourth time that I've been on the show. First 2 times I played incidentals and Walla and background characters, which in an MMORPG is really fun. And the third time I was in season 2, I played a character named Kota, who had literally like one line. And then now I play Moonphase, and now I have an actual name and
yay!
roll in this giant epic saga of Sword Art Online.
Cheers. It is quite epic indeed. That is for sure. Hello to everyone in the chat. We got Tiffany, Gazi, and Valerie. Hello.
Hey.
And if you're watching it later, comment down below your thoughts on the episode as well. All right. So the very beginning, we're talking episode 16, Code 871.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get into what that means too. Yay. We got the champ. Production says the next episode is going to be crazier than the last episode. Do they all keep getting crazy?
They do. Oh my gosh. Like just clenching all the way through, just being like, what's gonna, it almost, you know what it really feels like? It feels like if you were younger and you watched Dragon Ball Z for the first time on TV and you're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And it just keeps building. You're like, where is it going? But similar, feelings.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. This show and we're only covering the dub. So if you've already watched the sub, which I have too, no spoilers. So careful on that, everybody. But yeah, it just keeps getting crazier in a good way. It's just like, yes. Because at the beginning, we start with Yanai and poor Higa, and we've learned that Yanai has infiltrated Wrath, and he is working for somebody who is a callback character. We got Nobuyuki. And to go, what did you think of? Yeah. What do you think in general of how this show, especially now, has had a lot of callbacks of characters? Be like, by the way, that person from like a while ago, they're back.
You know what? Usually I'm against it because I'm like, that's like, it's like reusing assets and like sort of like it kind of feels like, it's just a little cheap on the cheaper side. But for them to unite to take down such a common cause, like for a common cause is actually really, really cool and like epic. Because I don't know, it's crazy and like it's really cool, and I love seeing characters return, like from previous seasons. And I think overall, like, it's just really, really cool. It's like, how are they gonna top this ever, right? Like if they ever continue on with the SAO saga. So
yeah, as we were saying, it was a while ago when it first started, and how much they're doing callbacks, which I think really was more impactful for me when I think one of the movies came last. I think it's pretty much the last movie came out. Because then that had some callbacks. But by now it's like, oh, dude, you have to like rewatch everything because it's like, oh, they're coming back now, and it just feels like it was so long ago. But then that's kind of nice of like, oh, well, for the characters we want back,
or the characters who could come back.
Yes. You're like, who else is gonna come back? No spoilers, anybody. And what do you think, viewers? What do you think of character callbacks who have been your favorite thus far? Don't get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, leave a comment, let us know. So we also learn, of course, Yanai has leaked the information of Alice to the U.S. and thinks that he'll have a safe way out that way. And we talked about it a little bit, I think, last week. Or not last week, but the last episode. It's interesting this season, they've really incorporated like a real world aspect because they involve the US, they involve Korea, they involve China and Japan. Because early season, it feels more in a bubble.
Right. Isolated, very much in its own world. Yeah.
Interesting. Also, Yanai gets super creeper mode because he's like, yeah, I did my research and it was getting data and tentacles. And you're just like, creeper. Like, yes. That was just uncomfortable and awkward. Who was a fan? I hope you're not. Which, speaking of another callback, we get a standoff. We get Sinon and Subtilizer Gabriel and her realizing who it is. It was pretty cool for me to see them kind of switch to that gun gale mode of like, let's use the guns and sharpshooter mode. What do you think of that, Alan?
I thought it was so cool. I can't believe they're like allowing everything to just happen. The fact that they can switch between modes and like I don't know, it's really cool. It's like it's because you're so used to them being in their own isolated, sagas and parts, and to see it all come together is really trippy for one thing. But again, as someone who's watched good chunks of the show, it's good to feel something that it's good to see something that feels familiar,
Yeah. What's also just really kind of cool that in this world, anything is possible. It's really your mind is the limit. And so I just kind of like that for Sinon, she's just more comfortable using her gun.
With her gun, yeah.
Hakati. There we go. I can say it. Yes, Gesundheit. No, just kidding. But when he shows up too, and she's kind of like, oh my gosh, wait, who are you? And they kind of question them meeting up is fate. I'm going to throw you a slightly deeper curveball question. Do you believe in fate or circumstance or anything like that?
Ooh, I believe things happen. I believe it's complicated. I believe it's never just one thing. I believe it's a little of both. I think you make your own choices. But I think as individuals, you make your own algorithmic choices that are like in pattern. So yeah.
How very on brand for this show.
I know, right?
Your algorithmic choices. Well, it makes sense. If you make a certain kind of pattern of choices, you would probably get a similar kind of result. So it's when you change it that you would get a different outcome.
Chaos theory. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, I like it. Same idea, fans watching. Please leave your comments on if it's fate or not. I'm with you on that, and would go with things happen for a reason, but also shit happens too. So because you can't really go bad things happen for a good reason, because that would just make your mind explode. You'd just be like, I don't know how to process that.
Right. I mean,
I'm talking like also like natural disasters killing lots of people. That's where you go, maybe just shit happens too.
Right.
So maybe that goes with the chaos theory.
Yeah.
Which also, speaking back to creeper mode, we get Gabriel talking more about eating souls and would FTL taste the same. And you're just like, this dude is a creeper and weirdo.
Right. And you love to hate him. So, I mean.
Right. Oh. And Greg, such a great job of love to hate him.
Greg is so good. He's such a lovable guy in real life. And like, it's funny because it's like the most lovable people can like bring out the most vile sides of humanity in their acting. And you're just like, where is that buried? So we had a joke going that we had a joke going that like for a while on Toonami it was the Greg Chun like villain power hour. Because I think he played like Garo in One Punch Man, you know, back to back with SAO, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff where he was the main villain.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, go figure.
Shout out to Greg. I mean, he's my bro. So.
Oh, nice. Yes, he's an awesome dude for sure.
He's great.
We got Tiffany in the chat says, "I'm loving that every original English dub voice actor, especially hearing the Sleeping Knights again, have been able to reprise their roles so far." Yeah.
I think it's super awesome. Yeah, that I can't believe someone can actually keep track of all those characters as well. Like that's impressive all by itself. Like the sheer number of like unique characters with names and personalities come back with their own unique voices, and they're not just thrown in but to different actors because someone was too lazy to take care of them.
It's great to have them because some of them it's it's not a there are no small parts, but their character is not featured maybe predominantly. So it is nice to have that original voice actor back because that's them, I mean, though voice actors are not the characters. That's a different thing.
That is true.
But, it's just more to have that voice, and it'd be unfortunate if you had to replace them, so it's nice to have them all come back.
There's a lot of actually because of the span of the show right now, starting from 2013 when it originally aired in English to now, which is 7 years. I'm impressed that I'm impressed with the volume of people and actors who could come back as their characters, because some of them even moved on from anime and like won't touch a new show, but like when it comes to reprisals, they'll come back. And sometimes it doesn't always work out, but for this one, I believe most, if not all of them, did actually come back for it.
It's definitely awesome for sure. Which maybe everybody stay tuned for future guests of who's coming back, who's the character who's come back. Just saying. Also, this is another moment of FTW for the win. We get the electrode from Kirito, which helps save Sinon, which was this kind of nice, cool floating disc. It was like it feels like that awesome thing in a movie where somebody has something in their shirt pocket and they get shot and they're like, "Oh, I'm fine,"
Right? Yeah. No, I love that. It's what do they call it? It's the Deus Ex Machina or no? What was it? It's a different term.
Yes.
It's like if someone, it's like in the Three Musketeers where like the guy has the cross and like the bullet hits right there. It's like that. It's like, see, there is a god.
It's like, haha, yes. Yeah. Is that fate? Back to we're gonna have all kinds of callbacks on this show.
I know, right?
So
I love it.
And speaking of characters coming together, we get Asuna, Sakuya, and Alicia, which we get kind of a rescue fail, which is really kind of like, no. It is hard because some of those characters we know, well, not some of those, the ones who are from the outside coming in, if they die, they lose that character, but the person doesn't die. But it's still like hard to watch them be injured and life-threatening injuries too.
Right.
And then it's also, you're like, can you like, get some super healer and heal them very quickly, but we don't really know. It's like,
I love that idea that like there's still stakes in the fact that you can lose your character. And especially as an audience member, like you've grown attached to that particular character from that particular game, part. The fact that they can go away, even if the actual person isn't dead, it's still like heartbreaking, and the stakes are really still up there.
Oh yeah. Well, they've spent so much time and effort to build up these characters.
Yeah.
They're in-world characters, and to lose that in an instant is just like, oh, that'd be awful. We got, let's see in the chat for a second. Okay. We'll get to that in a moment because we're almost to that moment. So rescue fail. And Sinue says, wants to get the message out, which is where Moonphase comes back in, because we did meet your character already, but now it's when kind of coming out with Mei Shang, and they're like, wait, let's talk this out.
Yeah.
How did it feel to have a character who's at least a little bit and a lot of bit like, wait a minute, I want all the information, isn't so gullible like a lot of people, or easily influenced, because we do know that they're being like essentially pushed in a direction.
Right, they're being manipulated,
Yeah.
like everything from the posts that from the previous episode
Mm-hmm.
to now, everything just seems slightly off
Mm-hmm.
kilter. The fact that my character gets to be like a point of clarity in all this is really cool. Um, I don't know. It's the fact that like he has this slight this air of pessimism, and it kind of like allows him to stick in and draw into reality and be like, okay, something's not adding up here.
Mm-hmm.
My only question, actually, it was interesting because in the booth, when I was being directed by Alex, the first question that I came up with is, how come I'm the only one that like figured this out? And he's just like, anime, like I don't know. But I believe in the actual story, I mean, outside the anime, I think in the light novels, like Moonphase does has more like scenes, and like he has more inquisitive like parts.
Mm.
But they had to like condense it down for the anime. But like I think it's really cool that like he has enough awareness to assess the situation and realize that there isn't that something's just really off.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
totally.
love getting to play that, and getting to play like the gears turning, and things clicking and being like, wait, something's really wrong. That was a lot of fun to play.
It feels like his character is someone who would kind of question, not take things at face value,
Yeah.
but maybe for the purposes of the show, he's the character who brings that about. That we don't get more backstory on that. So now
Yeah.
we'll get to some questions from our chat. Ghazi says, question for Alan. I love seeing Moonphase and Sinue meeting and telling Moonphase and everyone how they're converted characters, not knowing. Oh, and Moonphase knowing. What did you think of that? I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit. But I mean, I guess if you were in game, if somebody's characters were super different, I think you would just want to ask more questions, right?
Right. No, you'd stop what you're doing and be like, yo, what's actually going on?
Mm-hmm.
As an online gamer myself, I actually empathize with the other characters who are just, caught up in the mindless fighting. Because I realize that like in the heat of the moment, you're not really you like tunnel vision, and like you're just focused on the task at hand, and you might not be able to see what's going around you. So the fact that he has like the ability to keep that cool and stay cognitive of like his surrounding is that much more cooler to me, because I usually don't keep my cool in video games. I freak out.
So it's nice to like channel that energy and be a little more zen. Yes.
Be cooler than you actually are. No, but
I don't know. You seem pretty cool. So, but
it.
I haven't played you on an online game, so I can't say. So we got Oathkeeper in the chat says Moonphase and May were in volume 17 and they felt something was sus. So that makes sense of that they've also, it seems like the two of them, it does help to have another person to talk things out, to be like, wait, am I the only one thinking this?
Right.
There must be something else going on. So I like his skepticism, and that he has a friend that he's able to talk this out with. Yeah.
I loved I think I heard Susie and her lines when she was playing Meishang.
Oh, cool.
And and being able to play that off and really like again get the gears turning and put in the thinking behind his words. That was a lot of fun, because again, usually a lot of characters that I play like are very emotionally charged. Meanwhile, he's very emotionally reserved and thinks before he sort of acts, and it's a rare treat. It's nice.
Nice. Yeah. Any other thoughts or anything you want to add from your character for the first episode, or the first time we saw you coming in? Like, what was it like being that character, of getting into the game, or just any behind the scenes of recording up till this point?
It's funny because every time I play a character and then I get to watch them on TV or through a clip on social media, I repeat it a few times because I still can't believe that's me. I'm just like,
Aw, yeah.
it's really giddy.
Yeah.
So, no, I was just really happy with how the performance came out. The casting director was there, the director was there, and as well as the client, and they all really enjoyed it. They felt, like it felt naturally inquisitive, and it was just a lot of fun to play that skepticism. Um, I think the thing that I would add probably is that like, um, well, besides the fact that he's Korean and I'm Korean, um, the fact that like I could, like sort of scan through and read the Korean on the actual like on the animation, and be like even more imbued in that as the character. Like I can actually read what's going on and live that out as him. That was really cool to me.
Oh yeah, no, that's a really cool extra level to your involvement with it. I hadn't even thought of like the fact that because it's Japanese and my reading of Japanese is not that good yet. So I mean, I see maybe a letter, I'm like, cool, but that's really a unique perspective to be able to literally be in it. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it was brought up last time when we talked about your character a little bit, and Koi mentioned he really liked your casting and felt, we talked about how representation matters. So what does it mean to you? Yeah. What does it mean to you to kind of have that representation to actually be Korean and voice a Korean character?
So as a kid, I got lucky because around the early 90s, there was a show called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I got to see a Korean character growing up through Johnny Young Bosch playing Adam Park. And that was really cool. Like Adam, like once like those three actors left and then the new ones came in, Adam became my favorite character, even if he was just a little quiet. And even to this day, like, it still affects me because like it reminds me of like how I, like I can be proud of like being who I am. And there's an example on media that like other people have seen as well, and they're like, "Oh, you're Korean. That's so cool," blah blah blah. And now flash forward to now where I get to play a Korean character, especially in anime. That's so rare, because by de facto they're all Japanese. But the fact that I get to do it is so surreal, and it's crazy to think that someone might look at that and be like, wow, like there's even Korean characters in anime, like and like the fact that like I can get this excited about my past experience. I can only imagine what it might feel like for someone else who's also Korean to see that on screen. So it means a lot. It means a lot. I think the movement in general, like, and this is like a larger conversation that, like, separate from this one, but I think it does matter, and I think it's a great movement for the most part. And I think it's a step towards, like, a general step in the right direction. So, I'm proud of being able to represent my people. I don't know, people of my ethnicity on screen through animation. I think it's really cool.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's something I think a lot of people take for granted or don't think about at all. Or it's a big part of the discussion right now. And as you said, this would be a whole other discussion as well. And I'm like, yeah, that's a whole other discussion of who should voice what kind of characters. But for the meanwhile, it is nice when someone who is of that, whatever the character is able to do that. And because it really does show how much representation matters for those watching, because people notice, and it matters, as you said, it makes a difference to the viewer. So
I think it matters I think it matters individually for viewers in their own unique way, right? Like, be it to see someone of the same ethnicity up there, like it'll invoke different reactions in them, and it'll mean something independently and individually to them, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was gonna say, you said it much more eloquently than I was trying to. I'm like, the words and things, I got it. Yes.
I'm just killing. No,
you're like, I got this. Okay. And there we go. Tiffany, yes, I agree. It's nice to see Moonphase and May not being manipulated as much and keeping their doubts about Poe's objective. Yes, it's very nice to have characters, because it's the other thing in some shows where you, the viewer, you're sitting there going, okay, come on, I'd be a little skeptical about what's going on, and none of the characters seem to be. So it's nice to have a couple voices of reason. And there are some people, I mean, maybe it just depends on what kind of player you are, because maybe your character is just someone who wouldn't be as easily swayed when people are like, let's go do this thing. Be like, I don't know, maybe let's think about it. So
I think it reminds me of the quote, like, individuals are amazing and awesome, people suck, right? Like
yes, people are stupid, or people are dangerous. A person is smart, people are dumb. I'm blanking. Leave something a comment if you know where that's from, because I'm like, wait, I totally know where this is from. I feel it's in a movie, but yes, exactly. An individual can be smart, but also, yeah, we see that it's affecting their minds, and it is kind of that mob mentality, and they just go and they're like, yeah. Also, we talked about it. Alex von David mentioned how it's almost kind of like really tapping into people's national pride, because it's like, let's go against them, and this is whether it's.
I think it's very. Oh no! Sorry, I was gonna. Sorry, you were saying something, but I really interrupted. But I was just gonna say that, like, I think it's really relevant right now. I try not to lean into politics too much, but I think it's very, very relevant in today's, like, current climate, political climate, as well as just the world climate right now, in terms of that tension. I think it's pretty good. I mean, if they planned on it, great. It's great commentary. If not, it's still genius,
I think they've just gotten that much further in the show with the world commentary, because the beginning, I don't feel that was such a thing, but now it's such a big part of it. And as you were saying, in anime, it's generally mostly Japanese characters. Occasionally there's like the one foreign exchange student or something like that. So it's kind of cool to see. Also, it's interesting to see Japan's view of these other places, because it's a Japanese product anime looking out. So it's kind of cool to see how they're treating the other characters. And kind of to your point, too, of watch it now in current political world, regardless of anybody's leanings or anything, it really makes a point. I think what's really important is how having all of the information is important, because the characters who are just listening to Poe Visago, they'll know one thing, but if you actually listen to the other players, you would know that information is wrong. And it's the people who don't want to know what the other side is saying. It's like, okay, maybe we need to listen to everybody and know all the information before you jump to conclusions.
And I think I think the show shows. I think the show shows how difficult that can be at times, and how difficult that really can be. With the spread of fake news and disinformation, being upfront. People trusted the people within, who posted it, from the servers to, and they acted in good faith, but like it turns out they're, things just don't add up, and and it's just a little sus, and that's in our vernacular for 2020. But yeah.
We get Oathkeeper says Post strategy is both nuts but clever. US players get to PK. The Korean and Chinese get to itch that chip on their shoulder about the Japanese. Yeah, exactly. And then
it just shows that, like, people tend to, like, if you don't put any thought into it, like, people tend to bend towards, like, the emotional urge and instinct, like that knee-jerk reaction. Yes. And how dangerous it can really be. I think the commentary on that is very relevant today.
Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's there is much to learn from anime.
Oh, yeah,
people,
no, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. We got John in the chat says, one of my favorite animes. Just found out there's a season 3. Just started and trying to catch up. I love the subbed and dubbed. Thank you so much for voice acting this anime. You do an awesome job.
Thank you. Thank you for watching and enjoying. I hope you enjoy all of it. And yeah, just welcome to the fandom. So
yes, quite a big fandom at that. So thank you everybody who's watching live later, and thank you very much for all the questions in the chat. And make sure give that video a thumbs up. Yay. Yeah. Then we get to actually speaking of Asago, man, that moment when Asuna is kind of like, it is what are you gonna do? It's just overpowering, and she almost essentially gives up of like, all right, fine, what can we do now? Right. I was a little surprised when Saga was like, wait, halt, and that the actual that character was like, or person even, it was like, okay, and stop. I'm like, dude, you don't know. What if he's like, whoops? That could have gone bad real fast.
Oh yeah.
But damn, that backhanded slap too. I was like, oh, how dare you hit our queen? Like, no. Right? Oh,
Gut
but
dropped.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes. And the surrender, and it makes sense in terms of, well, at this point they're just losing people to keep fighting. I don't know if Asuna has a plan yet what they would do after the surrender, but at least regroup, of let's take a breather, Yes. Then we have we're going to hold off on what ends there because that's kind of our nice cliffhanger, but we hop over to Sheita and Iskan and Lifa showing up. It's
Lifa,
like, yes, that was so great. And also Lil Pillin too, which was awesome of them showing up. And then rewind, shout out to Koi and Justine for joining for last time. So fun to talk about those two characters. I was saying how it is the ship we didn't know we needed, and it's just adorable.
It is. It absolutely is.
And I was like, we need to save them. Come on, Lifa, Lil Pillin, and all the rest of the army. It's like, come help them. So I was glad they showed up. That's another moment where you're like, do we have any other troops hanging out somewhere else and other places to come help our characters? It's like they're in dire need of assistance. Yes. On the outside, we got Rinko and Kuka. There we go. Kuka. Sorry if I'm saying any of this wrong, anybody. Well, that's when they get to learn about the taboo limitations, which is interesting that they had no idea about that until this point, but we haven't had many characters break it, so it makes sense that they learned about it. Yeah. And that's when we learn, like, eyeball, and you're just like, ew, what? Like, why is this going to be how it breaks your mental control? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, apparently. But with Lil Pillin, we learned it's the emotional. His was emotional versus Alice's, which was more of a mental break through the barrier, which is kind of cool that there were both options that an Underworlder could do.
Right.
It's like, go figure. Then we have the champ says Lifa will survive. Yes. We learned that she has some really cool capabilities later on. So, well, actually, we've already learned that she has some skills and regenerative abilities. So I'm not too worried about her. But even if your body's re-healing, that's a lot of mental duress to go through. So we'll see.
Yeah, that is.
Yes. Then we learned what the episode title means of Code 871 Tianai. What did you think of that reveal? That's like it's the like name tag essentially in his lab coat. You're just like, no.
It was no, absolutely. It was exactly like that. It was just like,
You're just like, wait, what? Yeah.
That was a good twist. That was a good twist.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because there have been some characters on the Flying Turtle that you're like, where did these people come from? And so you kind of forget about them because you're so focused on the underworld, and you're like, oh, those are the people causing trouble. I got it. Then looking over at the chat, yes, Tiffany says Kirito needs to wake up already and get revenge for his queen. Yes. Oh my gosh. Kirito, get on it. Need to get some caffeine in him or something.
Dude, he needs that.
He needs
that chai latte.
Morphine? No, what's it? No, what's that shot? Adrenaline? Yes, there we go. Like someone's on the ground. Like, I don't know.
Morphine, just go to sleep.
That's true. That's a pain reliever.
Right, that'll knock you
out. That tells you how much I know about these things. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Just had the idea of like wake him up. Let's see. Okay. Oathkeeper says from everything, even from what was explained light novel, Yanai was the one who put the Yes, we will get to that moment in just a second. Yes, this is exact. Thank you. We learned that Yanai was the one who put the corruption in the underworld. And he likes the Adme, which was really creepy to affectionately talk about her that way. And he's like, she and I were close. Ugh. And no kink shaming here. If he wants to be her slave, okay. But I thought what was really weird is how she was able to make contact with him first. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait, how did that just be really weird? If I'm like, programming and doing stuff and the computer talks back to me and it's like, hey, I need some assistance.
Yeah, there's quite a few things in the show that that hit certain parts of like Western nerves. I will say that like you're just like really like, oh, I can't believe they kind of went there. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Japan. I mean, is that the only thing we say about that?
No, I had a watching a concert and it was quirky kind of performers, and my friend and I were looking and we're like, because Japan. Like that's the explanation, and meant not in a negative way at all. So nobody take it that way. It's just one of those. We love that, whatever you want to quantify it as, because that's why we keep coming back and watching these shows.
Oh, I think I played a few incidentals after I voiced Moonphase, and I think I made a joke. And I'm like, oh my god, it's Hatsune Miku. No, and just like I don't know. No, they laughed at that. No, but that was. Yeah. That was a kind of head tilting moment where you just go, you turn to the director and you're just like, anime. Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was really interesting that he, I mean, I guess it makes sense of someone from our world falling in love with someone from the, let's not call that love, falling in lust with somebody from the underworld.
Falling for someone. Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely yes.
It happens. I mean, it happens in real life too, right? Like just for better or worse. I mean, without even any subjective like judgment. Because again, who am I to judge, right? Like,
that's why we're like, we're not judging his.
Right, but I will say it in a greater sense that like, if you had to, you can kind of say, well, it is kind of part of the human experience to like. Enact a fantasy, an image.
Because he said she's everything I would have wanted in a woman, and
projection,
everything about her. Yeah, so I mean, it makes sense for him to become obsessed. I think the point where it's the unhealthy thing is that he's okay for a real world human being, or anybody for that matter, Kirito, to die, his soul to die because Kirito killed her. That's where I would value the regular world people's lives a little bit more of like, or at least, you can't kill one just because they killed the other. Also, she was evil in the underworld. So that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And reading over in the live chat here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Oathkeeper says, he worked for Sugo, and both aren't right in the head, especially since he doesn't care if Kirito dies. Yes, he's definitely, all these people have had something go wrong for them, that they're off. And speaking of people being off, we got Visago also. So we get another reveal that was kind of cool of, again, throwback. We learned that he was the one who tipped off Kirito and the gang about laughing coffins, because he wanted to make them killers. And you're like, that just sucks.
Yeah. The laughing coffins. Oh, man.
But I kind of hope somebody tells Kirito this later. I mean, we don't ever see this moment, but I kind of wish they go, by the way, this is what happened.
When Kirito wakes up, he has a lot to catch up on.
He has a lot. He's like, it'd be like, instead of those season recaps where it's only like a minute, he'd be like an hour long.
Right. Yeah, no, he gets
Kirito, here's what you missed. Yeah.
And he's just sipping coffee like, wow, things went south when I when I checked out. Yeah.
Indeed. And we get him wheeled out, and it's like, which is just really sad to watch. And that's where it stops. And you're just like, yeah. Technically. But then we also get a chamber thing with like, I think it looked like a number 500 on the side. It was trying to like look at it. Can't quite pause it on live TV. Right. But somebody I noticed on Twitter mentioned it's reference to the movie. So I was like,
Are those...
no spoilers. Anybody who's ahead and knows.
I have a question. Are those canon? Are those actually canon? I don't.
Those post-credit scenes? I would think so.
Yeah, I meant
there's
the movie.
Not many. That's a good question. There we go. Deep fan cut. Have there been post-credit scenes in any other part of the season? I don't think much. I cannot recall. Leave a comment. Let me know. Yes, Champ says the cliffhanger is so much pain. Yes, it's definitely one of those like, because we give Saga really like, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Just like, Kirito, can we wake up? But yeah, that's where we end this episode. Any other thoughts for you of this episode as like your character and as a fan? Anything you'd like to add?
I want to see more. Like I'm like I've played characters who like show up for like 2-3 episodes and then like, you know, peace out or whatever. But like, I want to see more. I want to see what happens. I want to see like more of this, you know, more of Moonphase, and because he's so interesting and they built him up. It's weird because he like for as small of a part as he is, like he helps being so pivotal, right? Like he has so much, like he has so much value for the real estate of time that he's been given. That like I hope to see more. And I don't know, he's just a fascinating character. Again, love playing characters where you can see the wheels turn and having that clairvoyance and clarity of mind to like kind of point things out.
Yeah.
So I don't know, fingers crossed. As a fan, I gotta say, like, it's been a journey. Like, things have been nuts, right? Like, sometimes I can't keep up and I have to rewatch full episodes just to figure out what on earth just happened on my screen.
Yep.
This whole journey has been it's been a commitment. It almost feels like a grand epic shonen like Naruto, where you're just like, all right, I'm so invested, I have to watch this to the end. And you just want peace with it. But like this was definitely one of the episodes where like things are coming to a point where you're just like, okay, this might be, this might be swallowing up to something larger and swelling up. And I don't know. I just can't wait,
Yes, definitely. Yeah. We have Oathkeeper says Ordinal Scale is canon, so would be that scene. Yes, so that's a good point. So that's reference. Thank you. I was like blanking on the name of the movie. Ordinal Scale. It is interesting. We'll see what that means. It's like dun, dun, dun.
Right, because I know a lot of anime movies tend to not be canon, right? Like technically they're not.
Some like you could watch it, or you don't know when it falls in line with the anime too.
That's the other thing.
Like it could be different parts on the timeline for sure. And then Gazi says, "Go Moonphase. I love seeing his development in SAO."
Yeah.
Yes. I hope we get more too. Yes. So recording for you, have you been recording at home? Did you get to record in the studio for this character, or was it all at home?
No, in this glorified blanket fort that I'm in, that's where I did all my work. I've been doing at home work since the beginning of this pandemic. Studio shut down, and I got so lucky because I built this just to do auditions originally, and then I had to fortify it to do some bookings, and it all kind of worked out. Like, obviously you can't see it, but like it's pretty decked out. I have like wireless mouse and keyboard. I have this second screen right here. I have the shelf and this light, and it's it came together right as I needed it, and so that's why I've been able to continue working during these tumultuous times. Yeah, no, it's been a crazy, interesting ride, and I've learned a lot about like technology that I usually, is bequeathed upon to engineers. Um, yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been interesting, and like I don't know, I'd love to go back to studios, but if I have to do this, I wouldn't mind doing it for a
Yeah.
lot longer. So,
Well,
yeah,
it's great you have a means to do it in a space, and that you were, like, as you said, already essentially set up just, a little bit more to make it possible. So that's
right.
awesome.
Thank you.
For
Yeah.
sure. For recording this show, your character does have some physicality. How much space do you have to move around? And do you move around much when your characters are fighting and like, oof,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I did martial arts when I was younger, and
Oh,
so like
cool.
anytime there's anything physical, I actually do punch. I actually keep a few tools with me inside the booth, so I actually have this. If I need to like hold on and like grip something
Mm,
for tension, I also caress it if I need something to like be creepy about.
mm,
I also use this as a pretend sword. Like you ever, I don't know, but like as a kid, I grew up with a stick, and so like fighting with a stick was my sword. And so every time I do a thrust or anything like that, I use this in my hand to,
well, pen
um,
mightier than the sword, right? Something. Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, no, exactly. And it adds that physicality. I
Yeah.
really like it. I have enough room to like play around here. I wish there was a little more, but like, I'm dealing with the real estate I got.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, no, it's pretty cozy in here. Not gonna lie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Because it is always interesting to hear for different voice actors how much they want to use their full body and how
Right.
much they need to and whatnot. For recording Moonphase for SAO, what has been your favorite moment and what has been the most difficult?
Um, they're actually the both. They're actually the
Mm,
same thing. When the first time you see him, after he's talking about, like, I wish the Korean army had, like the
mm,
such and such, and he talks it, and he discovers this thing and he's reading it. The most difficult thing about it was matching to the flaps because, you can see what's written there and he has to read it.
mm-hmm,
And I didn't want to just have him like read really slowly on the screen. You have to put some meaning behind it. So, Alex and I took a couple passes at it, and we made sure that when he read it, like you can hear the gears turning in his head, being like,
mm,
like the players, the Japanese players are doing blah 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 blah. And again, I wish I had like the actual script in front of me, but I don't. But no, just making sure that like he's like double checking what he's reading and adding it up in his head and being like something's kind of amiss here. Um, so anytime he got to be quiet and I got to play with the subtleties and the emotions that he's going through in the subtext and layering it all on, it's a lot of fun. It's challenging, but it's so satisfying to work with. I guess the second part would be um talking within the game itself, right?
mm,
Like that's probably where I had um the other, bits of fun. Sort of looking around, and even if you don't see his face and his mouth, like the shock to see what's going on is just it's a lot of fun because it's not like a shock in your face. It's sort of a creeping shock, and to
mm.
build that up is a lot of fun for me. So yeah, I enjoy the process of layering on to my performance.
You're
So
the layers.
absolutely.
Yes.
It's like an
No.
onion or an ogre or something. Yeah,
Yes.
nomenclature.
Right. That's it. I don't remember the year, but that'd be another pop culture reference of
I
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great way to explain it, and it's always cool to hear what is difficult, but maybe that's more fun. And yes, matching mouth flaps does seem to be one of the more tricky things to make it match, and make it still sound
right.
good, and work with what the dialogue is. So that is maybe sometimes where the biggest differences are for
Oh,
sub and dub is like what sounds can you fit in there via what was already made? So it's like,
with the amount of space that you have, how much can you really squeeze into there?
Yeah.
Actually, the other thing, I remember this now. We were having technical issues that night while doing it. So sometimes the signal would not be as strong, and so like I would hear the audio before seeing the video. So I had to. So basically, I was blind when I was recording this. And I just had to like trust I knew the rhythm of the mouth flaps. And yeah, no, I've had to do that a number of times, and like I'm impressed with myself as to how many times I can do that.
That'd be so frustrating, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely slows things down.
Yeah. So we've covered everything on this episode. Thank you very much for giving your feedback on your character and everything. What are some projects you're working on now? Let me get back to where people can find you. I'm like, wait. Aha. Yes. What are some things you're working on now or that have come out recently that you want people to know about?
Okay, so I worked on a show that's now on Netflix called Great Pretender. I play Edamame, who is the lead. It's a really fun show. It is probably the most fun I've had in an anime ever. And just because of COVID and the circumstances, it sort of became lightning in a bottle for me because we were going slow anyways. So I got to do as many takes and go as slow as I wanted to like really, really put on those performances. And it kind of feels like it's like a weird Cowboy Bebop for me in terms of like just effort. So yeah, and then there's also I play Kohaku in Yashahime, which is the sequel to Inuyasha. Yeah, no, that one's weird as well because that was around the time I discovered anime on Adult Swim. And like I latched onto that character when I was younger, and now I get to voice him, and that's just a weird meta of like, oh my gosh, I get to like act with the same actors I pretended to when I was a kid. Yeah.
You squeezed so hard, you're just like,
yeah. I'm continuing to play Shu Kurenai and Beyblade. Oh gosh, I don't know what else I can talk about right now. That's probably
it's like just what you can say.
Yeah, that's about it. I think that's all I can talk about right now. There are a lot of things in the pipeline. Fingers crossed as to when I can actually talk about them. And yeah, this has been just a lot of fun. So
nice, yay!
Yeah.
Well, early congratulations on the ones coming out, and congrats on the ones that are out. So a lot of those are available. So everybody go check them out.
Yeah.
And then where can people find you online?
Oh, I have an Instagram, but I'm not really active on it. I should get active on it.
There.
I'm on Instagram for it's Alanator, ITSALANATOR, and then for Twitter, it's at AlanLeeVO.
Which is right there.
Yeah, which is right there in the doodly-doo. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, that's where you can find me. So yeah.
Very cool. And then something I enjoy asking voice actors is, what is some advice you wish you could have given yourself when you started?
Oh man, there's so much. Because I've learned so much this year that like I've had a crazy journey. But if I could at this point talk back to like super young Alan who was like thinking about going to voice acting, what I'd probably say is like trust in your training and just get experience. Like don't be afraid to get experience while you're learning. You know, like you have to build your legs somehow, and you can't wait till you're ready. Because I think the thing that I see with a lot of people, at least I see myself in them, is the fact that like a lot of people wait until they feel like it's right. And waiting as long as I did to like really start getting in, like after all these years of training, I'm realizing I could have started a lot sooner if I just trusted myself. And yeah, and also don't tunnel vision into this thing. I mean, yeah, you have to be hungry for the work and this line of work, but you also need to experience life. You know, like the life experiences are going to be the biggest thing in terms of your tools, in terms of your toolbox. So like, don't forget to live life, you know. That's going to be so grand and like, you know, vague, but that's what I would probably tell myself. And my younger self would be probably too dumb to figure out what that meant until he got to where I am. So
oh yeah, no, absolutely, that makes sense. And I've heard that before, and that your life experiences can impact your work and whatever you do in ways that you can't really imagine. So it's always great to have that in your wheelhouse, our toolbox of, you know, to channel it a different way. So for sure. Nice. Anything else you would like to add before we wrap up?
Shout outs to Alex Von David and my engineers over there. I'm so sorry for the years of mischief that I have caused on the show with my other. Oh man, I have stories to tell you after this, but no, thank you guys who are catching in, you know, tuning in on the stream, and who will eventually see, you know, the guys who will see it on YouTube. Thanks for your support, and look forward to what the future holds.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody who tuned in or watched this later. Please comment down below your thoughts on the episode, and make sure to give video a thumbs up and subscribe. We do these every Sunday, Monday. Kind of just depends on when guests are available. And so happy to have you in the live chat and to see your comments afterwards. There we go. Yes, you can find me online at Carrie D Lane. Also on my Instagram, I have one-on-one interviews, which this was cool that this turned out to be kind of a one-on-one as well. And you can find more interviews with voice actors on there. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. It's super fun to dive into the show with all of you. And a huge thank you to my guest, Alan. It was really fun to talk about the show and hear about your experiences.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yay!
Yeah.
Right? It's like, yay, anime! Right? It's like, we just get to geek out and talk about the stuff we enjoy. It's awesome. Well, again, thank you, everybody, and I will see you next time. See ya!
Bye, guys.